everybody. Um, I hope everybody is nice and warm tonight and also maybe enjoying the snow. Uh, I got an email just the other day about all the plans for Shuso Hosen, and I just can't believe how swiftly time is flying. That we're even thinking about Shuso Hosen already. Very quickly, time passes by. And I have been really enjoying listening to all the talks uh, that everyone has been giving during this Ango period on Dogen's Uji. Uh, and for a big reason, because it helps me to understand it. um, through the years and through the many study texts that we've had through the years, I've come to really have a deep appreciation for Dogen. But full confessional is that I don't ever really read Dogen for fun. I have to say. But I see him as uh, something unique in kind of the Zen world is that I feel like he's really a writer. He's uh, he's like an artist writer, where so many other Zen masters would give talks that their teachers would, I mean, that their students would record and then put that into a book. But Dogen was a real wordsmith, a real craftsman of language, and also someone who I think was extremely creative, very, very creative way of looking at things. And I don't feel qualified in any way to speak about Dogen, about his meaning, but I can speak about how it makes me feel and what it brings up. And I'll speak about a few different passages. But just right off the bat, time being and the idea that time is being and that all beings are beings of time is something that has always intrigued me as a musician. Uh, this this is the second time we've had this as a study text since I've been at the Village Zendo, but it was quite some time ago, um, a little bit more than 10 years, I think. But I remember when we first started looking at this, and I thought about time, and time is something that is spoken about a lot in music, especially jazz music. For me, time is an expression that is used to describe a musician's rhythmic accuracy. So you have some people that have really good, strong time, and then you have some people that have kind of funny time. Maybe somebody has good time, somebody has bad time. I was I was adjudicating recitals all day today for the college I teach at, and that's one of the criteria is time. We're always listening to how someone expresses time and how someone plays time. And certainly, all musicians are time beings or beings of time. When they play, they are certainly being time. And there's nothing quite like the feeling of playing time with a group when you're together and everyone is playing time together. Um, I find that there's something very healing about that. There's been many times when I've had to go play when maybe I was feeling a little under the weather, and as soon as that beat would start to happen and we were all playing time together, it would kind of uplift me, had a very healing quality to it. And I think that feeling is also passed on to the listener. Um, Something comes over the body when one experiences a group playing good time, good strong time together. It's kind of a mysterious thing. And something I always stress to my students is that they always have to work on their time. I always say you're never too good to work on time. No one is ever too good to work on their time. No matter how good you are, you can always get in there and iron that time out a little bit. I used to have a teacher when I was coming up that would, I guess, sometimes call someone out when maybe they weren't playing their time good enough, and he'd say, "Hey, time's not a magazine." He'd also say, "A beat is not a vegetable." But it's interesting as a teacher. I think that time is perhaps the thing that identifies a musician the most. The way that someone plays time is, I believe, what gives them their uh, uniqueness in their voice, as opposed to the notes that they choose. But it's a very subtle thing, and usually not something that the younger musicians in my college are as interested in when they get there. They're more interested in tackling the advanced harmonic concepts and different chromatic passages that they can play. But there can't be any harmony without good time. Uh, you know, in order for the harmony to really come together, we have to be playing time together. So it always comes. From in music. It's built from the bottom up, and the bottom and the base is time and rhythm. I had another teacher that always would say the three most important things in music are rhythm, rhythm, and rhythm. So there is a very rich history of these kind of genius beings of time beings from this past century, uh, who have recorded their time being for us to enjoy forever. And recently, I had the pleasure of attending a master class by one of these masters. His name is Ron Carter. He's a world famous bass player who I guess became famous playing with the Miles Davis Quintet in the '60s. And it was a wonderful master class. And at one point, a student asked him, "What strategies do you use to uplift the soloist?" So, just a little reference there. Being a bass player in a jazz band is also kind of the foundational one of the foundational elements. It's like the bass player is almost always playing. The bass player is not someone that gets to take a break, and their job is really that of being an accompanist or a supporter to the soloist who's standing in the front. So the student asked, what strategies do you use to uplift a soloist?" And without dropping a beat, he said, "I bring me to the bandstand." That was his answer. "I bring me to the bandstand." So I'm going to go through a couple of passages from Uji that have stuck out for me, and speak about them a little bit. Here's this one passage. He says, "The time being is entirely actualized without being caught up in nets or cages. All beings of all kinds, in the visible and invisible realms, are the time being actualized by your complete effort, flowing due to your complete effort. Closely examine this flowing. Without your complete effort right now, nothing would be actualized, nothing would flow." And so when I first read this passage, I kind of was scratching my head a little bit about what he meant by effort, by giving one's complete effort. Because another kind of message I get from this fascicle is that all things are part of the time being. There's nothing that is outside of time being. So whether you give effort or you don't do anything, in a sense, it doesn't matter, right? We're all part of the time being. So what does he mean by this effort? Um, he says to fully actualize the golden body, to arouse the way-seeking mind, practice, attain enlightenment, and enter nirvana is nothing but being, nothing but time. To fully actualize the golden body is nothing but being, nothing but time. So I might paraphrase that by saying to fully actualize your Buddha nature, just simply show up or bring me to the stage. But as I was thinking about that, and also thinking about why Dogen would feel he would have to write a fascicle like this, I thought, why is that so hard? Why is it so difficult to just show up? Why is it so difficult to put our effort in that direction and just simply show up? Nothing but being, nothing but time. So he gives some more insight on this. He says, although the views of an ordinary person and the causes and conditions of those views are what the ordinary person sees, they are not necessarily the ordinary person's truth. The truth merely manifests itself for the time being as an ordinary person. Because you think your time or your being is not truth, you believe that the 16-foot golden body is not you. However, your attempts to escape from being the 16-foot golden body are nothing but bits and pieces of the time being. At the time you enlighten the entire world with 3 heads and 8 arms, you enlighten the entire world with the 16-foot golden body. So I think that human beings are incredibly magnificent creatures. All of us have a secret internal world that only we can know. And that world is also something that we construct ourselves based on our individual causes and conditions. While everyone's experiences are unique, I believe that there are a lot of common denominators. And I think that things happen at certain times in our lives that are confusing and bring us pain and suffering. I don't think that there's anyone out there that doesn't relate to that experience. We've all been confused at some point, and that confusion has brought us suffering. And in our incredible creative energies, we start to build an internal dialogue and structure that helps us make sense out of this confusion and pain. And in its way, this thing that we create, this internal dialogue and structure, is formed as something protective and supportive and something to help us. But quite often the way this construct operates is to take you away from this flow of time being. Like Dogen says, these are the views uh, that the ordinary person sees. They're not necessarily the ordinary person's truth. And because you think your time or your being is not truth, you believe that the 16-foot golden body is not you. But we get comfortable in this familiar place, and we can read this about Dogen, but what is our experience really on the inside? And thinking about that made me think about one of my favorite quotes by Nelson Mandela, where he says, "It is our light, not our darkness, that most frightens us. Our deepest fear is not that we are weak. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. It is our light, not our darkness, that most frightens us. And as we are liberated from our own fear, our presence automatically liberates others." And, for me, I feel that there was always some kind of a feeling of dissatisfaction in my life. There was always some faint voice telling me that there was something more, that there was something hidden. And maybe this was the call to practice. And I think as we develop a practice and start to take a look at all that stuff that's inside that we've created, we slowly can start to peel back all the layers. And then we can begin the process of becoming intimate with ourselves and notice how we don't believe we are the 16-foot golden body. Um, for me, especially once I began to peel back the layers and I saw clearly how imperfect I was and how many faults I had and how many regrets I had, how could it be possible that this person is the 16-foot golden body? I find Dogen to be very helpful in this area also because he says, even though we believe, even though we think that we are not the 16-foot golden body, all that is bits and pieces of the time being. It's all a part of it. I think it's much easier, although way more painful, to pretend you're not it than to be it. I think that is the effort. This is the effort. This is the showing up. This is the bringing me to the bandstand. How can we be intimate with our inner views, with our imperfections, with all our faults, and really bring that to the bandstand? I've been watching, lately, I've gotten into this YouTube channel that's called the Soft White Underbelly. And I guess you can kind of say, in a sense, that this guy is kind of like a modern day Vimala Kirti. He's someone that was his name escapes me right now, but he's someone that was an extremely successful photographer. He had many different corporate accounts, and he's in an interview I saw of him. He had made quite a fortune being a photographer. But I guess something he felt kind of unfulfilled with what he was doing, and he started to take on this project, which is Soft White Underbelly, and he never expected it to grow, but it has grown, and he has a significant amount of views on all of his videos. And also just an interesting side note, just because one thing I was thinking about was an exploitative issue here, but apparently all his videos have been demonetized by YouTube, so he doesn't make any money on these videos. And what this guy does is he goes out um, and spends some time interviewing people uh, in places that you would probably never want to catch yourself ever. He spent a lot of time on Skid Row in Hollywood. Uh, he spent some time in what was that, the Tenderloin in San Francisco. He interviews drug addicts, homeless people. He interviews pimps, prostitutes. He interviews uh, sex offenders, child molesters. He interviews everyone. And his initial idea was to just take a portrait of each of all these people, and in each video there is this black and white portrait, which is he always takes these very edgy uh, portraits that remind me very much of Jiryu's work. But then he has a small interview with them, and he's not trying to really. He doesn't really have any agenda other than he just wants to, I guess, reflect to show the world what's really happening, what's really out there, and it's quite incredible. And I wanted to just speak a little bit about one person um, who is perhaps quite unique in in the cast of characters that he has. And this guy's name is Jerry. And when you first see Jerry, it is quite shocking because it's like half of his face is missing. And when he tells his story, you find out that he never had any issues with any kind of drugs or alcohol or substance. He was never involved in crime or anything like that. Just he had a job making airplane parts, I think it was a vocational job, and he was on his way home one night, and he was sitting on a bus stop waiting for the bus, and he said the next thing he knew, he woke up in the hospital months later, and someone had shot him in the face with a shotgun, and and he tells you that in kind of a fantastical way that the doctors told him that the only reason that he was alive is because he was shot at a point blank range, and if the gun had been any further away, his whole head would have exploded. And so he literally lost half of his face. Um, and when you first meet him, he's on the street. He's also on Skid Row in Hollywood. And but the remarkable thing about him when you see him speak is that this man has incredible positive energy. He's always speaking with a smile. Uh, in all the interviews, you never hear him complain once. And the interviewer will even ask him, like, do you ever complain? Do you ever get down? And he says things like, "Oh, don't worry about things in life. I love living." He keeps saying that. I love living. I go into a shell, but I can't do that. I love life too much. Life is great, man. I love living. I couldn't wait for the morning time to come. I would get up early in the morning so I could see the morning light. And he also has, I guess, because of his condition, he has chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, which is an inflammatory condition with the lungs. And if he doesn't have his breathing machine, he can't go more than a few steps without having to stop and breathe. Um, One time and every time he talks about everything, he has a big smile on his face, and it's really remarkable. And the interviewer asks him, "What advice do you have for people who are going through trouble, going through issues?" And he said, "Don't worry about the things you can't change. Accept it. Life is beautiful. I just go with the flow." So when I think about Jerry, you know, we don't know. We really don't know how we affect others, because I think about the things that I've been embarrassed or ashamed of in my life, and I imagine that I imagine that I would not take having half of my face shot off the same way that Jerry does. Um, but what's incredible to me is that uh, he is extremely intimate with his whole experience, and even though it might be something that we may be ashamed of, or we may be embarrassed of, or have problems with, we have no idea when we are intimate with it, when we're intimate with all those places, how we can actually help liberate someone, just like Nelson Mandela said. Because that's how I felt watching Jerry as I was watching this video in tears. Um, I felt like his presence and his intimacy with his own uh, issues or his own life uh, helped liberate me and help lift me up in that moment. So we don't know. We really don't know. I always say that when something else I say to students, an experience that I've had way too often playing is that it feels one way, and then when I listen back to it, it sounds the other. And that could go either way. So we really don't know. And I think that if we can be intimate with ourselves, um, and really find those places that we've kind of hidden from ourselves and from the world and bring that forward, I think that's the effort. That's how we show up, and that's how we bring me to the bandstand. Or maybe just like my doorman used to say, I used to walk in and say, "Hey Chris, how you doing?" And he'd say, you know, everything's everything. I think maybe that's another good way to encapsulize Dogen's Uji. Everything is everything. So thank you very much. Have a wonderful evening.